Hey GAWDA members, what's going on? Welcome to a special Labor Day episode of GAWDA TV. Our industry, like most industries, has been dealing with a shortage of skilled labor in recent years, making it more difficult to recruit and retain talented employees. That problem was exacerbated during COVID as employees became even more scarce. Today, we speak with two GAWDA members about ways that they've been successfully navigating the labor crisis within their companies. You won't want to miss these great interviews. In other news, last week finally brought some movement on the long-awaited infrastructure package in Congress. The Senate passed their version of an infrastructure bill on a bipartisan basis and sent it to the House to be considered. If that bill passes the House, indications are that it will be signed into law by the President. We spoke with GAWDA Government Affairs consultant Rick Schweitzer about the contents of the bill and what its potential impact will be on GAWDA members if it's signed into law. Last week also saw the third and final regional meeting of 2021. We returned to the beautiful Seven Springs Resort in Seven Springs, Pennsylvania, where GAWDA attendees gathered for one last regional meeting ahead of the annual convention, which is just 1 month away. The Seven Springs Regional featured amazing presentations from industry speakers like Eric Wood, Matt Winkle, Rob D'Alessandro, and Marilyn Dempsey to go along with networking opportunities like lawn games, sporting clays, axe throwing, and the golf tournament. The Seven Springs meeting is also home to the unique reverse contact booth program, where suppliers got to walk the floor and interact with distributors at their individual tables. The event was a home run and a fitting capper to this year's regional meeting season. Thank you to all the GAWDA members who attended and who made these great events possible. Visit GAWDA.org for a sneak peek at the 2022 regional meeting schedule. All of that, plus our second annual convention update, and great GAWDA member news coming up right after a word from today's sponsor, Weldcoa. This GAWDA annual convention update is brought to you by Air Products. Air Products is proud to introduce Francesco Mayone, President of the Americas, as the industry keynote speaker at this year's convention. With just over a month to go until this year's GAWDA convention, registration currently stands at over 600 people. Don't miss out on this amazing opportunity to learn and network with fellow GAWDA members. The event will take place at the amazing Broadmoor Hotel and has unparalleled networking and educational events planned. Register today by clicking the link in the description below. In the last convention update, we discussed the general session speakers planned for this year's convention. Today, we want to dive into the networking opportunities that convention has to offer. This year's Contact Booth program will take place on Friday, October 8th from 8 a.m. to 12 noon. This is your opportunity to speak with prospective supplier members or to deepen relationships with existing partners and to learn about the latest and greatest technology that our industry has to offer. Already, more than 90 companies have reserved booths for the showcase. Booth space is filling up fast, so if you'd like to exhibit at this year's Contact Booth program, contact Andrea Levy at GAWDA's headquarters. For a complete list of exhibitors, log in to the GAWDA Convention's CVent page on GAWDA.org and click on the Contact Booth tab. There, you'll see a link to view the latest list of exhibitors. Aside from the Contact Booth program, this year's convention has fun events planned, like the 3-2-1 reception for attendees who have attended 3 or less GAWDA events. It's a wonderful opportunity for those that are new to GAWDA to meet other GAWDA members and to learn about all that the association has to offer. Also taking place on Wednesday, October 6th, right after the 3-2-1, is the President's Welcome Reception. It's a great evening full of fun that you won't want to miss. On Thursday, October 7th, the Women of Guests and Welding Committee is holding its event, which will be a guided hike of 7 falls. It's a series of 7 majestic waterfalls that has to be seen to be believed. On Friday, October 8th, after the Contact Booth program, the Young Professionals Committee will hold its event, A Lesson in Brew at Ivywild, a former elementary school converted into a place where visitors can mix and mingle over local cuisine and craft beverages. Later that evening is the President's Farewell Gala, can't-miss event that features dinner and dancing. In addition to all of these events, be on the lookout for industry hospitality events that will be hosted by GAWDA suppliers throughout the conference. Convention is the can't-miss event of the year, and you don't want to miss out. For more information about this year's convention or to register, click the link in the description below. For specific questions about the convention, you can reach out to GAWDA's headquarters directly. For information or assistance with registration, contact Bruce Ellenbogen. For the Contact Booth program, contact Andrea Levy. And for all other convention questions, contact Natasha Alexis. The contact information for all 3 of these staff members can be found in the description below. Once again, we can't wait to see everybody again in Colorado Springs. Stay tuned for future episodes of GAWDA TV to get more convention updates as we get closer to the show. Joining us first today is Oxygen Service Company President and CEO Ryan Diekow. Ryan, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Ryan, Oxygen Service Company has been a 100% employee-owned company since the early 90s. Can you take us back to that time and give us a little background on how the company decided to become an ESOP and how you feel that has impacted the company?
So our 2 original owners were Bill Lund and Bill Huber, who were well known in the industry. And one of the decisions they made as business partners was not to bring family into the business. So when they got to the point of retirement, they were at a bit of a crossroads. Do they sell to one of the large distributors out there, or do they go down this employee ownership road? And they decided to actually take less for their business, but reward the folks that had been loyal to them and help them build the business over the years. So it was an exciting opportunity for us as employees. And I think it's neat because they come around. Bill Huber's passed away, but Bill Lund stopped by and was in my office just a week or so ago and is excited about what's going on in Oxygen Service. And ironically enough, he'll even still bring us sales leads from time to time and say, hey, I saw these folks here or there. So he's very proud to be associated with Oxygen Service and to leave the employee ownership legacy.
Ryan, we've had the opportunity to discuss in the past that companies across our industry, and really all industries, are struggling to find and retain qualified employees. Do you feel that being a 100% employee-owned company has given you an advantage in that respect?
Absolutely. I think that being a 100% ESOP does give us an advantage when it comes to recruiting. I think it's one of the things that we use it, especially with folks that are younger, is we've gone away from calling it a retirement benefit to calling it a wealth building tool, because a lot of folks, especially younger folks, don't see themselves with the same company for the next 30 years. So we're trying to make sure that they understand the advantage of being a part of an ESOP and the tool that it is. We also think that the people want to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves. And I think that that's one of the things we see with an ESOP is they're not working for an individual owner or a large company. They do feel to a degree that they're working for themselves because they see the benefits of it, whether it's through promotion of themselves or their career or through the wealth building tool that I talked about before. And I think it's been really good for us, not only in recruiting, but also in employee retention.
So you mentioned the idea of people being part of something larger than themselves. How do you feel that having all of your employees be part owner of the company has impacted the company's culture and made the company better?
I think that the impact that people have had, or the ESOP has had, and that how it makes it better is that it's also, as a management team, it's pushed us to have better communication and be more transparent. We are pretty much transparent with all things as far as financials of the company, other than folks' salaries. We also think that it's increased employee engagement. We have an ESOP committee, which does some things, whether it's educating our employees, being involved in the local community, or just even doing social events, that it gets folks involved through different parts of the company, depending on what their personal passion is. We also, because ESOPs are something that gets involved at the political level, that we also do some lobbying as part of our ESOP community. So there's a lot of different aspects to our culture that, depending on what someone's own self-interests are, that they can get involved and engaged in the business in different ways than you might normally have in a regular business. And I think, too, that there is a family feel as part of the ESOP, because people do stay here so long and you get to know people so well. And I think that's not something that's necessarily common in today's workplace, is a family feel within a company.
So on that topic of communication, in 2018, your company won a national award for communication excellence regarding ESOPs. Can you discuss the types of communication that were required to make an ESOP run successfully, and what you did to separate yourself from the other ESOPs to be recognized with a national award like that?
I think the national award for us was a really big deal. One of the things, and I mentioned this earlier, is we are big on transparency, and that comes with the good and the bad. It's easy to tell somebody the good news, but when you have other things, or when business is down or that sort of thing, is we're transparent with that too. So it's one of those things where you win together and you lose together, so to speak. I think when there's bonuses and things because we're we're having success, people share in that, and I think that's helped. I also think that one of the things, as far as a communication point of view, is that we try to give honest feedback to our employees. I think that's what a lot of folks are looking for today. And it's easy to tell somebody that they're doing a good job or that they're appreciated. But I think honest feedback also comes when there's improvement that needs to be made, because people then, they trust you that you're willing to give the good and the bad. And I think when we've done that in the past, it's been very good for the company, for our culture. I think there's a high level of trust within our culture. But communication kind of starts and ends with the leaders of the company. And I think that's one of the things that we feel really strongly about is just communicating, being transparent, but really giving honest feedback.
Ryan, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Manufacturing plants located in Longview, Texas and Huntsville, Alabama, Norris Cylinder Company is proud to be made in the USA. Manufacturers of high and low pressure cylinders, Norris works hard every day to meet the demands of independent distributors across the U.S. with help from our regional representatives. Call Norris for the highest standards of quality products and services when it comes to your cylinder needs.
We're joined next today by General Air Service and Supply President Brad Armstrong. Brad, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Brad, General Air became a partial ESOP in 2007. Your website calls that part of your secret sauce for recruiting and retaining the best in our industry. Can you discuss the decision to form the ESOP and how you feel that it has benefited your company?
The decision to form an ESOP in 2007 was really part of my dad's transition plan from his position of leadership to mine. And it was one that we worked on together. And I think it's really the heart behind what he did in giving a good portion of our stock to our employees. One was he wanted to recognize and honor the individuals that had a long career with us and helped us really get established. And two, I think he wanted to put some stickiness in the business as we were transitioning from, my dad and his leadership style to mine. And so to really encourage our employees through stock gifting to hang in through the differences and the nuances. But one thing was going to stay the same, that we have our employees' best interests in mind. And the ESOP is a long-term benefit, which really encourages people to stay as the stock grows in value over time.
Brad, with the labor shortage that our industry is dealing with, there's a huge emphasis put on recruiting talented employees, but you hear less often about how you retain them. How do you feel that General Air has had success with employee retention?
I've had an opportunity to get to know a lot of different businesses in our industry and seen a lot of different cultures. And one thing that I know is true is that there are a lot of paths to success. The path that we have chosen, which is really a carry forward from my dad, is to have a culture of intimacy. And I got to tell you, it's not for everybody, but in our culture, we really try to get to know our employees at an individual level and come alongside them with individual support. So one of the things that we do is there aren't very many barriers to get to leadership in our business, and that's intentional. I know that this gets more challenging the larger organizations become, but we try to get to know our employees through and through at their name level, at their family level, what their kids do, and just have genuine relationship. And it's in that relationship that you'll get exposed to, what's happening in your business, and you'll be able to build programs and thoughts around how to support them. So kind of one of those examples is, 5 years ago, or maybe a little bit longer, the house pricing in Colorado has just continued to escalate at a rate that is, it's pretty hard to keep up with. And it was just one of the major themes as we were talking to some of our younger employees. They were wondering how they're going to be able to afford a house in this market. And so we partnered with a realtor and a financing firm to come in and to do some seminars, both of which offered up discounts on their rates so that it was putting real money back in our employees' pockets and really opening up ideas to how they could be a homeowner in this environment. And that's just one example of getting to know your employee, understanding what they're going through, and responding.
Along those same lines, Ryan Craven gave a presentation at this year's SMC entitled Getting Your Employees to Give a Damn. What kinds of things has your company done to increase employee buy-in and engagement?
We're on our third year of implementing an operational system that I know a lot of other companies in our industry are doing. It's called EOS. And currently we have about 36 teams meeting on a weekly basis. And one portion of that weekly meeting is where you talk about issues that are getting in your way to serve customers or make your job easier, or currently they're challenging. And we spend 2/3 of that meeting brainstorming how to resolve those issues. And so I think that really lends to, our employees are bringing up solutions. They're actually seeing their solutions get put into place. And it's in an environment where there's nothing that you can't put on that table. As long as we do it in a respectful manner, we want to hear what's going on in the business and drive better results by listening and implementing what, in our organization, 36 different teams are putting forward.
According to that presentation, 71% of employees are disengaged with their work. How do you measure that type of metric?
So we have a third party that conducts a survey for us each year. It's part of the Best Places to Work survey. It's anonymous, and so we're actually polling our employees with a long list of questions that we didn't come up with, and then at the end of that time, we're responding back to our employees some of the major themes that we heard, and then some things that we're moving forward with. So the first time that we did our survey, we were sort of humbled. We still won the award Best Places to Work, but we were surprised that 48% of our organization was either slightly disengaged or actively disengaged. And so we put forth a couple of programs this last year in response. We've launched a program called the Day in the Life program because we found that some of our teams weren't very empathetic to what other people do to accomplish works. And so we started with our leadership team actually working a day in the field in different parts of our business to really kind of see what they're going through and have plans this next quarter to roll out our next level. And so that was one of the things we did to increase team understanding and team cooperation. We found that even though we send out quarterly videos since COVID, we used to do that in person, but since COVID, we've been doing them virtually, that people still wanted more information about what was happening. And so we sent out 14 videos in response to that we called Tidbit Tuesdays. And so just little 2-minute videos on some major projects we were working on, why we were working on them, and what we think the impact and results are going to be for the organization. We just announced a new benefit change that we're implementing this next year. And again, it was in response to the survey. So one of the secrets is listening and responding. It's kind of one of the basics in all relationships. But between year one and year two and doing the survey, we moved from an engagement level 20 points. So we're now 70+% of our employees responding that they're engaged or actively engaged. And we're working hard every day to continue to improve that.
Is there anything else that you can add about your company's culture and the work that you've done to ensure that it remains strong and vibrant?
I'd be remiss if I didn't say, that our job has been to carry forward the culture that my dad put in place. And it's always been a people-focused business. And we're fortunate, having been around for 52 years, there's things that we can do as a mature business that we know that would be difficult for others, or they might not have the appetite. But simple programs, and we have a college tuition payback program as an example. So we've always had an education forward program, meaning if you wanted to go get your degree while you're working, we would help you do that. But we realized that college debt was one of the major themes as we got to know our employees. And so we had a tuition payback program that we put into place, that we took the same dollars that we would give for somebody to go and get their education and applied it to those that had already done so to pay it back. And that's one of the benefits that our employees talk about the most. We've got a program where you can buy any book at all on any topic. If it's unrelated to your work, we'll pay 50% of it. If it's related to your work, we'll pay 100% of it. And that's an initiative that my dad had put in place. We still do old school celebrations, and we were excited to do our summer picnic this last year, carnival style. We had to do a virtual change during COVID, but as things opened up here in Colorado, we were able to do that. So it's a very family-friendly environment, and that's what we hear back from our employees. As they describe our business, they describe it as family, and that's probably the highest compliment that I could get from our employees, and something that we work on every single day. It's a lot of work. But it's something that we think is worth it, and we continue to work on.
Brad, we really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Cavagna's new CGAR residual pressure valve eliminates the need to search for the right filling adapter. Our RPV is the fastest filling valve in the industry because we understand that time is money. At Cavagna, wherever gas is used, we are there.
Today's member news segment is brought to you by Anthony Welded Products, 4 generations strong since 1958. FabTech is set to take place at Chicago's McCormick Place from September 13th to the 16th, 2021. For GAWDA members who are attending, make sure to swing by the GAWDA booth, B33042. We'd love to see you there. The next session of ITR's Managing in an Uncertain Economy webinar series is set to take place September 23rd at 3 o'clock Eastern. This webinar series is designed to help your company plan during these unpredictable times. To register for the session or to view past sessions of the webinar, click the link in the description below. The American Welding Society launched a new online course called Solution Selling for Welding. The course focuses on foundational welding concepts and the solution selling methodology. CK Supply introduced a new logo to better represent its product offerings of gases, welding, and dry ice. Noble Gas Solutions announced that its Executive Vice President, Colleen Kohler, was recognized as one of Albany Business Review's Women on the Rise. Congratulations to Colleen! American Welding and Gas announced that its CO2 Air division was awarded a safety award for 2021 for having 0 preventable accidents, 0 recordable incidents, and 0 lost workdays for 500,000 plus miles. Congratulations to the team at CO2 Air. Kaplan Industries continues to make progress on its new Harrison, Ohio warehouse. The concrete has been poured and the frame continues to go up. The IWDC announced several promotions. Megan Baker has been promoted to Senior Accounting Analyst. Kevin Kofed has been promoted as Senior Accounting Manager. Jeffrey Kinder has been promoted to Warehouse Manager. Adam Moore has been promoted to Purchasing Manager. Congratulations to Megan, Kevin, Jeffrey, and Adam. Registration is open now for CGA's 2021 Safety and Reliability of Industrial Gases, Equipment, and Facilities Seminar, which runs from October 12th to the 13th in McLean, Virginia. Tomco Systems announced that Kevin Gillibrand joined its team as a strategic commercial manager. Kevin will focus on CO2 and dry ice applications. Vendor Managed Gas announced that Angie Signorelli joined its technical sales and support team. Finally, we'd like to welcome the following new members to the association: Ratterman Cryogenics, Fives Cryo, IGX Group, a biotech company, Paulson Manufacturing, Speed Industrial Gas, and Gulf Gases and Technology. We look forward to seeing you at future GAWDA events. To read more about each of these news items or to submit member news, be sure to read the complete September 1st issue of the GAWDA Connection in your email inbox today or by clicking the link in the description below.
Introducing the newest product launch from Anthony Welded Products, it's the 3-in-1 cart. Now customers can have the best of all worlds with a fast-action cylinder placement band, zinc-plated safety chain, and load and roll front caster feature with removable front wheels. Available and ready to ship. Small, medium, and large size carts are available. For more information, click Anthony Welded Products link in the video description below.
We're lucky to be joined next today by GAWDA Government Affairs Committee co-chair Chuck Beal. Chuck is the General Counsel for American Welding and Gas. Chuck, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Can you discuss the purpose of the Government Affairs Committee and how the work that you do on the committee benefits GAWDA members?
Well, we're in a very highly regulated industry, and so the government has a more direct and profound effect on our members than in almost any industry I've ever participated in. You've got DOT, FDA, state boards of pharmacy, fire marshals, EPA. They all have a direct effect on us. So when these new policies and laws come out, one, we try to perhaps change those before they become final, and then when they do come out, we try to communicate with our members about the best ways that they can comply with them, or perhaps make them not as applicable.
So the Government Affairs Committee, like all GAWDA committees, is a volunteer-only committee. What was it about this committee that made you want to get involved in the first place?
Well, at the time that I first became an employee of a GAWDA member, I was looking for a ability to give back, and that was a long time ago. Actually, it was 2005, and I found out about the Government Affairs Committee. They were looking for people with legal backgrounds, and so it was just a natural fit.
Absolutely. So without getting into the politics, with the change in administration this year, have you seen a change in the regulatory environment as it pertains to GAWDA members that you've seen so far? Or do you expect it to going forward?
It hasn't. It has had some impact. I mean, different administrations have different policies, and we try to advise our members about how to deal with those. There's some things that we foresee in the future that we're definitely watching very carefully right now.
Is there any specific issue that you're watching closely that you feel could have a major impact on GAWDA members?
There could be a very positive impact from the stimulus plan. Now, a positive impact in that our GAWDA customers, the customers of GAWDA distributors, will be buying more products that will be used for the stimulus plan. Of course, somebody's going to have to pay for it too, so our members will probably have some adverse tax effects from that also. That's a big one. There are some driver hours of service revisions that went into effect 2 years ago that we would like to maintain on the 100-mile radius for same-day driving. That we would like. It's been expanded to 150. We want to maintain that. So we're working diligently to make sure that nobody wants to rope that back in. And then there's some issues about independent contractors and organized labor that we're watching very carefully.
Chuck, we really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much. We spoke earlier with GAWDA Government Affairs Committee co-chair Chuck Beal. Joining us next today is the other co-chair for the committee, GAWDA Government Affairs consultant Rick Schweitzer. Rick, thank you for being back with us today.
It's great to be here as always.
So we finally got some long-awaited news last week as the Senate passed their version of the infrastructure bill. Can you tell us where the bill currently stands and what work still needs to be done to get it across the finish line?
The good news is the Senate did vote in a bipartisan fashion, 69-30, to pass this bill that's would spend $1 trillion over 5 years on traditional infrastructure projects, and 19 Republicans, in addition to all 50 Democratic senators, voted for it. It was negotiated between the Democrats and the Republicans and the White House. This is considered essentially the White House bill. And it's now through the Senate. It is not through the House yet, though. The House previously had passed its own infrastructure bill. That bill is now off the table. So the question is whether or not Nancy Pelosi in the House can get this Senate bill through the House. Ordinarily, that would not be a problem, but she is trying to tie its passage to the much larger $3.5 trillion budget bill that the Democrats are trying to get enacted as well. And that complicates passage of the infrastructure bill. There are a number of Democratic senators who have indicated they have some concerns about the scope and just the amount of spending in this $3.5 trillion bill. So over the next month to 6 weeks, we will see where this goes. The Senate committees, there are 11 different committees that are involved in actually putting together this $3.5 trillion bill. They have to do their work, come back and bring a single bill to the floor of the Senate and see if they can get 50 senators to vote for it and have the vice president break the tie in their favor.
Rick, when we spoke in January, you said that there was a must-pass bill that needed to be done by this September. Is that bill different than this current bill?
This is the must-pass bill because the current funding for the highway and bridge programs and transit programs all expires September 30th of this year. So we've only got a few weeks left to get this done. It's possible, if they can't agree, that they will do what they've done a number of other times, which is pass a short-term extension, maybe for a few weeks, maybe for 6 months, just to give them some additional time to negotiate. But I think, if they decouple the $1 trillion infrastructure bill from the $3.5 trillion budget, they can get the infrastructure bill passed in the next few weeks. But the politics controls everything.
So let's assume, for the sake of argument, that this bill, in its current form, ends up becoming the law of the land. What will that mean for GAWDA members?
First of all, there are a lot of good provisions in this bill. It has $110 billion for roads and bridges. So it means that the highway system is going to get a lot of repairs that are long overdue. A lot of substandard bridges are going to be repaired. There's a lot of money in there, new money, much more than what they've been spending in prior years for traditional infrastructure. There's money for passenger and freight rail as well, and money to expand mass transit networks, $65 billion to expand the electric grid and to harden that. There's money for rural access to broadband internet, another $65 billion on that. $55 billion for clean water infrastructure and to replace lead pipes. And then a number of other sort of categories of hard infrastructure projects. There was also a good deal of funding in here for electrifying the personal and commercial automobile and truck fleets, so that there will be a national network of charging stations for electric vehicles, for instance, under this bill. The real question is whether or not there's enough electricity to go around to actually service all of these vehicles, but that's another question. And then, there is no new tax in this bill. That's one of the areas of contention, is how we pay for this $1 trillion. What they really intend to do is to continue the same gasoline and diesel fuel taxes that we've had in place since 1994. We're going to keep the same 12% excise tax that you pay whenever you buy a new truck or tractor or trailer. And then they're going to authorize a pilot program on vehicle miles traveled taxes, so that the government can figure out perhaps 5 years from now when they pass the next long-term infrastructure bill, whether they can replace the federal fuel taxes with a vehicle miles traveled tax, particularly if you're going to electrify the fleet. Then having a funding program that's based primarily on fuel taxes is simply not going to work anymore. So you have to come up with another tax mechanism. A VMT is probably the best way to do that, but there are lots of details to be worked out, and that's what this pilot program is supposed to figure out. The real downside in terms of funding is that the Congressional Budget Office has said that somewhere in the neighborhood of $256 billion of this spending is not funded in the bill. The Democrat sponsors indicated that the bill would pay for itself, but it clearly is not going to. That doesn't seem to be holding anyone back from supporting it, however. And the other good things about this bill are what's not in it. It doesn't have any requirement to go back and re-examine the driver hours of service changes that were put in place last year. So the short haul exemption for 14 hours and 150 air miles for CDL drivers that exempts them from from driver logs, electronic logging devices, and the 30-minute break requirement will remain in place. That's not something that's going to be revisited under this bill. They're also not going to look at other exemptions and try to go back and put additional conditions on them. And one thing that this bill does have that I think might be helpful to GAWDA members in the long term is another pilot program that would allow 18 to 20-year-old drivers to operate commercial vehicles in interstate commerce. Right now, some 49 states allow 18 to 20-year-olds to drive intrastate, but if you want to cross a state line, you have to be 21 years of age. This provision would have a multi-year pilot program that would allow 18 to 20-year-olds to operate interstate after going through a pretty significant training and probationary period that includes 400 hours of classroom and behind the wheel training. And the operations would have to be in the cab with another experienced CDL driver. But I think ultimately it's going to yield results that will indicate that 18 to 20-year-olds are capable and competent to handle these vehicles. Even though the pilot program is not going to include hazardous materials transportation, I think ultimately, if it results in a rulemaking that allows 18 to 20-year-old drivers, that will take some of the pressure off of the driver shortage for not just GAWDA members, but for anybody who operates truck fleets.
On that last point, do you feel that pilot program will put an appreciable dent in the driver shortage that we've all been dealing with?
I think so, because as young people get out of high school, they're looking for a career to enter. The problem is if they want to operate a truck, they have to wait till they're 21 unless they stay in a limited area. So that fact alone directs a lot of them to something other than being a truck driver. This will help mitigate that problem.
Rick, thank you so much for your time and your insight. We really appreciate it.
Good to talk to you, Steve.
Thank you all so much for tuning in today. We look forward to seeing those members who are making the journey to FabTech at the GAWDA booth in Chicago. Be sure to tune in next week as we take a look at the GAWDA Gives Back program and over 2 decades of GAWDA members making a difference in their local communities. It's an emotional episode that you won't want to miss. For everybody here at GAWDA TV, we wish you a safe and happy Labor Day weekend. Until next time, this is Steve Guglielmo signing off.